Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Do's and Don'ts for Becoming a CMCA Course Provider. My name is Laura Lozano, and I am the Credentialing Associate here at CAMICB. Karina had an emergency, and she won't be joining us today. All right, today we're going to be covering several items. First, we'll go over what the CMCA is, and then we'll go over the CAMICB Continuing Education Course Providers homepage. Then we will review the CAMICB Continuing Education website, the application process, the top 5 reasons applications are denied, and then finally, the approval process. So CAMICB, previously NVC CAM, was established in 1995 with the goal of creating a credentialing program and anchored by strong examination and continuing requirements for professional excellence. So what is the CMCA and what is CAMICB? CAMICB stands for Community Association Managers International Certification Board, and the CMCA stands for Certified Manager of Community Associations. CAMICB is the organization that administered the CMCA certification, which is internationally recognized with over 20,000 managers certified worldwide. We also are nationally and internationally accredited. We have received international accreditation through NC by complying with standard ISO 17024. And this is for the recognition of the value of our program. Now, community association managers with a CMCA need to take 16 hours of continuing education every 2 years to maintain their certification. And so this is why we need continuing education course providers who are qualified and have quality programming to offer to our CMCAs so that they can obtain this renewal requirement. Now let's go ahead and navigate to the continuing education course provider homepage. You can find that on our website at camicb.org. If you hover the cursor over the recertification menu option, you'll see the third option is the Continuing Education Course Providers Overview. And then here is a screenshot of the page that you'll see, and you also find all of the materials you need to become an approved course provider, such as what course topics and information is acceptable. Now, when you scroll down, you'll see this bright blue button that says Start CE application. When you click on that, this will bring you to the login or create an account page. So this is the page you'll want to bookmark for easy access. So once you go onto this page, you'll want to set up an account. And once you set up an account, you'll be able to submit new applications and search through your submitted as well as approved courses. You'll also find on this page helpful links to a roster and certificate template once you have them approved. So to submit a new application, you want to select the provider application option, which you see here in the first screenshot. And then this will take you to the lower screenshot where you can either view previous submission or begin a new submission. Now, for our purposes in this webinar, I will be reviewing the new submission process. If you have not already created an account for this web page, the application will prompt you to create an account before proceeding. So the application process consists of 3 pages on the application. The first page here would require your basic information, organization information, and the instructor who will be submitting the course. You'll include here the course contact, of course, organization, name, location, and email address. Now, you'll want to make sure that the contact email and name and email address is correct because it will be listed publicly in the continuing education gallery. So you want to be sure you're providing the right information for CMCAs to contact. All right, the second page that we will review consists of course information, and then the final page will be the co-presenters. So let's go ahead and move on to this second page. This is where most of your information is going to be listed, so you'll have several sections to provide all of the information regarding your course for CAMICB to review for approval, which we're going to go ahead and cover in detail in the following slide. All right, so there is a lot of information, so don't be overwhelmed. I'm going to go through all of this with you. So first off, you'll notice that some of these are starred. This means that when you submit the information in your application, we're going to use this information to list it in your listing on the public gallery. So you're going to want to be conscious about what you include on there because this is the information that's going to be publicly displayed. Now, first, you want to include your course title for your program, seminar, webinar, whatever the program is. And then next, you're going to want to go to the description of the program. So this is where you're going to include pertinent information for CMCAs to know about this course. What is the course going to cover? Who is going to be presenting? What sorts of skills or knowledge will they expect to obtain? So things that CMCAs will be looking for and further information about what is involved in your course. Next, you'll have learner outcomes. This is for CAMICB to review to determine what CMCAs will gain as a result of this class. So basically, how is this going to impact and enhance the manager's knowledge? Then you'll want to look at the course delivery. For the course delivery, there are 3 options. The course can either be in person, live, or on demand. Live is a one-time virtual event, while on demand, it's an ongoing virtual option. Next is kind of a big section, and this is the course material section. If you previously submitted applications with PDF application, you will recall that you had to attach various documents to the application. And this is essentially the same thing, except instead of attaching your course material to an application in this section, you'll be uploading all of that information. So this is where you're going to upload the documents that are used to attach the PDF. So the detailed outline, copy of handouts, copy of the presentation materials, your copies of any advertising that you plan on doing, as well as your speaker biography and contact information. And if you don't remember what you need to upload, the application just lists everything that you need here right above this section, just so that you'll be aware of what you need to include. I also did want to note here that educational content cannot have promotional material, and biographies are not the same as resumes. So those are just 2 tidbits to remember when you're submitting this information. Now there is tracking attendance. There are 3 options. This is yes, no, or other. The bottom line here is you do need to track attendance, so you can either really select yes or other, and explain how you're going to be tracking attendance. Part of our policy is that all course provider must track attendance and then submit a roster to CAMICB after each administration. So if you select no in this section, that's a ground for automatic denial. So be aware of this. All right, so the next section is the on-demand URL section. So you probably want to be cautious when using this section. If you have a live webinar that is going to be converted to an on-demand webinar, consider using a link to your organization course homepage for CMCAs to navigate, so they aren't directed to a dead registration link after your live course ends. Next is program dates. This can be TBD, but it's more appealing if you can include a finite date or an ongoing option. Next, we have location. So where is this going to be held? If this virtual, what platform are you planning on using, and so on. Then number 10, continuing education hours. How many continuing education hours are you looking to have this approved for? This will need to be correspond to how many hours of instruction there will be. Please note that CAMICB does not approve any program that is less than 1 hour in length. And then next, there is course fee. You're certainly allowed to charge a fee, but if you do plan on charging a fee, please be sure that you are as specific about how much you plan on charging. And then lastly, we have a few questions. So the first question is, has the course been previously approved by CAMICB? If the course has been previously approved, this actually means that your application process will be really simple. Instead of uploading all of your course material, If your course has stayed substantially pretty much the same as your previous approval, then all you have to do to obtain approval for this course is to upload your previous course approval in this section. And then you won't have to upload all of those course material. If your course has changed significantly, then you'll want to make sure that you upload your course material to that course material section, just so that we can review it to determine if it is still acceptable. And then there is also the next question: has this course been approved by a state regulatory agency for community manager licensing? If you had this course approved by a state regulatory agency, you'll just need to upload your state approval notice, similar to the previous option. Essentially, this will act as your approval for us. So that way we don't have to go through all of that course material again. We can just verify that this has been approved previously by an acceptable provider. And then lastly, there is the provider's attestation. And this is where you're going to virtually sign that you agree to abide by all of CAMICB's continuing education requirements and policies if you are approved, including providing all CMCAs who attend your program with certificates of attendance, and of course, submitting rosters of attendance to CAMICB after each administration. All right, so that's everything on the second page, which I mentioned is the bulk of the information that you'll be submitting. And this final page, the co-presenters page, this is where you're going to include information about your co-presenters. This is not where you upload all of your instructors' information. This is more for if you have more than one person working on this program together. So for instance, if two organizations are working on this program together and you want to make sure the other person who you're working with gets an email about this course, then you want to include that information as well. So once you have included the presenter's information, you'll want to hit save and finalize, and you'll receive a confirmation email once your application has been submitted successfully. So next, we're going to go through the top 5 reasons applications are typically denied. The first and foremost is that the target audience for this course is not geared toward community managers. Community association management is a distinct profession, and while it is similar to its counterpart, property management, they are separate and unique professions, and there are important distinctions. So if we see throughout the program that you refer to property managers instead of community association managers and things of that nature, that's an automatic red flag for us and will probably deny the course. Another top reason that courses are denied is if we see company logos on every slide containing educational content. That's also another red flag for us. Company logos are not allowed on every slide. But however, we do allow them to be on the contact and interaction slides. But we want to make sure that this is not promotional in any nature. We want to make sure that the education is not specifically promotional, and this is education for our CMCA managers. Now, if you do have concerns over copyright, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a logo on every page. You can just have something at the bottom that says copyright of your organization, but please just be very aware that if you have your company logo on each of those slides, that is grounds for denial. The third reason an application might get denied is education requested for non-educational programming. So to only be awarded for educational content. So happy hours, dinners, welcome remarks, anything like that that is not acceptable for continuing education, and that will be denied. Fourth, continuing education is requested for program less than an hour. As I noted before, we can only approve programs that are a minimum of 1 hour in length. So anything below 1 hour will be denied. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, you do need to track attendance. Course provider must submit a roster at least 45 days after each administration for ongoing or on-demand courses. If you are holding this consistently, just try to submit your course roster at least every 45 days. And those are our top 5 reasons why applications are typically denied. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the approval process itself. Applications are first reviewed by staff to determine if all of the materials have been submitted correctly. The Continuing Education Review Committee that looks over all of these applications meets each month. Once the committee determines which courses are approved, staff will send the corresponding notices to the course providers depending on if they've been approved or denied. The approval emails will include the requirements for providers to abide by for their newly approved courses, including information on how to send certificates and rosters. And then approved courses will be uploaded to the Gallery of Continuing Education. And this here is a screenshot of the Continuing Education Gallery and what that looks like. So if you'll be able to see just how we'll be listing your course once it's approved. All right, and that concludes our webinar for today. If you have any questions, please go ahead and email us at info@camicb.org. And thank you for attending our webinar today, and have a great afternoon, everyone.